Jim Coventry from Rotowire here, week 18, fantasy football players to avoid. Looking here, I got Instagram, looking there, I got Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. So don't mind the looking around, try to get to everybody. Sometimes I'll look in the middle so I can get everybody. Anyway, moving along here, it seems to be potentially positive news on DeMar Hamlin. It's no news is bad, no news is good news, right? And we hear individual quotes and things like that. Not quite sure where we're going, but it looking good. I'm in a better mood because he seems to be in a positive trend. Let's talk some football. So week 18 will be weird. Before we get into the players, be very weird. We're going to have number of teams sitting players. You already have the Cardinals. They're going to sit. Not a big deal. Colt McCoy for fantasy, but or DFS. DeAndre Hopkins isn't playing, so they're going to mail that last one, and they already have a bunch of injuries, nothing to play for. And, this week you could see, based on what happened last week in the Bills game with DeMar Hamlin, you could see teams that season's over just basically mailing it in, not even, putting starters out. I could see that happening totally because everybody was rightfully shooken by this, and they should be. There's something that we should not forget. So, as we talk through these injuries, the Bears, they're sitting Justin Fields. He looked dinged up last week, and so he's not playing here. And for the Bears, that's a great move because Minnesota, they don't kind of like technically need to win, but they can get the 2 seed. They could. Now, Arizona probably isn't going to beat San Francisco, but you play them out, right? But the other thing is, could Minnesota really go into the playoffs sitting starters after that egg they laid in Green Bay? I don't think so. So I think the Bears are going to have a great chance of getting that number 1 pick in the draft because the Texans are playing the Colts. And you know what? I don't care. The point spread's 2.5. I think the Colts are more likely to lose that game. The Texans probably end up, pulling up the win. And if the Bears lose, the Bears have the worst record in the league and would have the number 1 pick. That would be pretty crazy to see. Tracy, you won this year 18-team league. Congratulations. Phenomenal. That's excellent. My help, no big deal. You did it on your own. Other teams, let me just look through my list here. The Titans Jaguars playing for the division crown. So we already know that's going on Saturday Night Football. And the thing here is we know that the Titans rested Derrick Henry, but that whole team is so beat up. They're still down 4 of their 5 offensive linemen from early in the year. Their defense is probably down at least 5 starters. So this is not a good spot for them. We've seen teams in the second half have success when they've ganged up on Derrick Henry to a degree. And the Jaguars are a good run defense. They have a good pass rush too. And Josh Dobbs is going to be a quarterback. And I know he had the element of surprise against Dallas and was able to make some things happen. But there's tape on him now. And that's problematic. I think the Jaguars are going to sail in this game. Titans have lost, 6 straight? They're not a good team, and they can't stop the pass. They're still, even with the injuries, they're good against the run, but they can't stop the pass, and they have pass rushers now. So Trevor Lawrence is going to have a big game here. They're probably going to blow out Tennessee here. So your betting props and your DFS, you're looking, at the Saturday slate, you're looking at Trevor Lawrence because he's in a great spot. We can't overrate Tennessee right now because the injuries are just so dramatic. The Buccaneers are getting 4 points to the Falcons. They probably wonder how realistic it is that Tampa Bay plays their starters for long. Anybody that's nicked up probably sits. They definitely want to keep their offense a little bit on the field, but they could sit them as well. So there's a lot of moving parts. Let's get to the purpose of the show here, which is our players who are trending down. We're going players to avoid. Kareem Hunt cannot believe the poor season that he's had. In his last few games, he has 13 carries, 32 yards, and 5 catches for 16 yards. The yards per carry on the year is 3.8. The worst he had ever been was 4.2. And his yards per reception, we knew he was a really good receiver. His career low was 7.7, 6.1 this year. And when you take his yardage over to 16 games, 34 yards per game. And he was getting a good amount of snap share for much of the season. He was in the 40-ish% range. And so whatever happened to him, whether he's playing through an injury, whether he is young, but sometimes younger players, sometimes they fall off. And right now, it's going to be interesting. To my knowledge, he is a free agent at the end of the season. As to where he ends up, who knows? But I am very concerned because running behind a great run blocking line. And for a while, till Nick Chubb got dinged up, he was having a career year behind that line. He was playing at an insanely high level, and that's speaking for him, who's a superstar as it is. So yeah, I am very concerned about Kareem Hunt going forward. There's always a chance he gets in a situation, he gets rejuvenated, so there's going to be that. But I'm nervous. We talked last week. Next player is Zonovan Knight. People asked me about start sits. I said, you know what? I got this sneaking feeling that he was that undrafted rookie. He had a couple good games. He played the Bears in the rain and took advantage of that. Had another fairly easy matchup and did okay. And then in his prior 3 games to last week, it was 2.5 yards a carry. And I made a comment on one of the streams, and I said, he could get benched. I am not concerned that he has established his role. And what do you know? Ty Johnson leads the backfield in snaps. He never goes away. It's like somebody in the Jets organization loves him because no matter who they have, he does not go away. So Zonovan Knight ends up playing 21% of the snaps. Now his last 3 games, but last week only was 2.5 years. Last 3 games now, 27 carries, 48 yards, 1.7 yards per carry. Breece Hall is back next year. And look, Knight is signed through next year. He's was a restricted, or one of these restricted rights free agents. It's not restricted. Can't think of it what it is, but he's one of these free agents in 2024. So he's with the Jets next year, but it's going to be Breece Hall. It's going to be some Michael Carter. Ty Johnson doesn't seem to be going away ever. So Zonovan Knight may be a game day inactive next year, but I think that flash in the pan ended. Of course, players can reinvent themselves all the time, so we certainly never rule a player out, but I just think he hit a perfect storm of things that worked well for him. Next one is Michael Pittman, and we can't blame this all on him. Remember, through 5 games, Pittman was 38 catches, 417 yards. He was on pace for 1,400 yards. Matt Ryan had a couple of good games in there. The line was still, it wasn't falling through the floor. It was bad, but not through the floor bad. And defenses weren't prepared for Ryan yet. And so Pittman was okay. And then it tanked. Between having Ellinger late last week, Foles last couple of weeks, and back to Matt Ryan, and it was just a train wreck. And the offensive line had gotten worse from a pass protection standpoint. We talk about their line, their run blocking is okay, and they can't pass protect. And so as a result now, Pittman has 29 targets over his last 3 games, good, but he's only caught 20 of them. And it's 140 yards, so less than 50 yards a game. But he did score a touchdown last week. And I did tell some people to start him in last week in PPR, and he came through. It was a PPR game. I was 15 points, and anybody would have lived with 15 PPR points for Michael Pittman. But next year, so it all depends on the situation. I went into the season, and even 2 years ago, I felt like Pittman was a very good receiver in that he could get open on in breakers and crossers. He was a big target. He could run after the catch. He was physical, could break tackles. And he's somebody who I really thought was going to come up big. And he has not been anything other than that. Situation is taken from him. So I feel like if they get any type of quarterback situation that's healthy next year, they do anything to address a little bit of the offensive line. And if there were players who were playing injured this year and they're better, just a little bit. And Pittman, in my mind, still can be a very significant fantasy force. But if the situation doesn't change, if it's still miserable quarterback play, no adjustments made to the line, I'm not going to be able to put Pittman inside my top 25 receivers. I had him top 9 this year going in. And the 1,400-yard pace he was on, he was going to be that. But he wasn't, and he didn't, and he isn't. So, but we have to pay attention to the offseason. But no, right now, it's not an overreaction, but if that situation doesn't get fixed, it's a bad spot for receivers. And so before we get to the rest, remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please smash the like and subscribe button. I'd appreciate that greatly. If you want a couple free days behind the paywall at Rotowire, rotowire.com/try, no credit card needed. Get you set up there. Let's do a couple more players, take some questions after that. So next one, Michael Gallup. We were very hopeful that he'd be a thing coming off the injury. He hasn't hit 40 yards in any of his last 3 games. 1 game over 49 yards this season. 63. That was it. That's it. Now we go back to 2019. That was his breakout year. He had the 66 catches, not a huge number, but 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. He was used a lot as a downfield threat. We know he's more than that potentially, but that's what he was really, really good at. And then he comes back in 2020 and he regresses, goes to 843 yards and 3 touchdowns. So a lot of the stuff that was working downfield hadn't. And then he gets hurt in 2021. But even in the 9 games he played, which was more than half a season, 445 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it wasn't much off his 2020 pace. And now we come to this year. He's played 13 games. Apparently he was healthy when he was in, and he's only got 414 yards. But he does have 4 touchdowns, which that's okay, but in 13 games. So realistically, Michael Gallup, in my mind, you really aren't going to be able to put him in the top 48 receivers going in next year. And we'll see what the rest of the team looks like. But it's really been a 3-year trend. And one of the years I know he got hurt, but we took that point before the injury, and he just looks like a guy, good NFL player, but for fantasy, I don't know that the consistent numbers are going to be there for him. So Michael Gallup will not be a player again next year that I'm going to be excited about in drafts. And then there is Deshaun Watson next. So he's thrown for 170 or fewer yards in his last 3 games, and he did have the 3 touchdown game against New Orleans last week. It was a weird game. Amari Cooper had some kind of a hybrid busted coverage, broken tackle that just got him sprung down the sideline for a long touchdown. It was a weird game. The yardage wasn't there for Watson, but the touchdowns were. It was like Amari had 3 catches, like 105 yards and a couple scores, I think it was. So it was really like, wow, it was a couple big plays that got the whole passing game home. But when we think about Watson, he in his first 3 games, it was 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Now, of course, he hadn't played in 30 NFL weeks. So it was almost 2 seasons he hadn't played. And it was a new offense and all these things. So we can't dismiss, and we talked about it when he came back, that rust could be a real issue. And it may be as simple as he uses these 7 games to knock off whatever rust was there. Next year, regular training camp, back to playing. He could be back to being that top 5 quarterback that he always had been from a fantasy football perspective. He has still rushed. He's 21 to 33 yards in each game since he's played. So there's been that. But otherwise, I don't know what to look at for this because it'd be really hard to handicap him. We've seen what we've seen. We have not seen great production. That's been problematic. So where do we go for next year? And, it's going to be a leap of faith pick. I don't believe you want to take him in a 12-team league as a top 12 quarterback. If he falls outside the top 12, he becomes one of the priority pickups as a quarterback too, even in leagues where you have shorter benches, because you pick him with somebody who is a starter. Maybe you pick the 8th quarterback, the 9th quarterback. And then if you come back with Watson, and Watson did regain what he had prior in his career, well, now all of a sudden you've got your quarterback 1, the other quarterback becomes expendable. And, but that would be a risk worth taking. Again, you don't overdraft like by round, but if it's a point in the draft where there's like nobody on the board you're excited about, that's where you make the choice. So when I rank him next year, like I said, the ranking's going to be tough. And where I rank him and where I draft him could be 2 different things. But like I said, I will not advocate drafting him right now based on what I know as that top 12 quarterback. But my guess is when I do the rankings, it's going to be hard to put him lower than quarterback 8 because I really do believe it was just this garbage. All right, so let's see what we got next. There's some questions. Let's see. We got Tracy on there. Tracy again, so excited you won. Phenomenal news. Congratulations. Next year, you're going to hit the repeat. That's what we're going. 18-team league still blows me away. That's so tough to do. Randy, all right. You are tied in an office picking pool going to week 18. Is there a game may go against prevailing wisdom that you like the most? Randy, you know the drill. I don't get too deep in the weeds. These games, today I'm kind of getting into them, looking at some early props and things. But I'll look at the line here real quick and see what we got. Let's see here. The Rams and the Seahawks, they're playing for – so let's see here. Looking through these Ravens and Bengals. The Ravens are a 7-point dog. I could see the Ravens pulling this one off. I think that one goes against the grain. And then it's a short spread. The Texans are 2.5 underdogs to the Colts. I think they're going to beat the Colts. I think it's not even going to be a problem with them. And then the other one, well, the Saints are favored, so that's not, that's nothing there. Browns and the Steelers. Browns are getting 3. Yeah, I don't know. They division. The Browns hate the Steelers. They would love to knock them out of the playoff picture. And so the Browns are one you could look at here. Buccaneers, Falcons. The line right now is Falcons -4, so the Falcons are favored. I do assume they win. I think the Bucs at some point will sit some people. Those are the only ones. I mean, I don't. Man, it's a lot of games. I think the Chargers will end up holding serve against the Broncos, and I could see the Rams upsetting the Seahawks. That I could see. The Seahawks have kind of been a weird team this year. They sometimes don't have the talent to not be able to show up. Like a lot of things, you really can't do that in the NFL. I think that might be a game they're looking past. I think the Rams could pull an upset there. That would not surprise me either, Randy. And Randy, of course, you're welcome. All right, no more questions here. All right, so programming note. So today, if you're watching live, it's Wednesday. So we'll be back Saturday for the Gambling Prop DFS show. That's 11:30 a.m. Eastern. That'll be on Rotowire YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. That one will not be on Instagram because I have another person on that show, John Ryan, the handicapper. On Sunday, we're still going to do the live stream start-sit question, but I know many of you don't have fantasy games. Ask me anything. DFS questions, gambling questions, game breakdown questions. We can go through anything that you want in there because I know there won't be a lot of start-sit questions there. And, of course, you can catch me on Sirius XM, Channel 87, 1 to 3 Eastern on Saturday, 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. And that's pretty much what I've got. Twitter. Follow me at Jim Coventry NFL. I just posted up a thread today. We're looking at some of these players with the focus on next year, kind of like we did in our talk today. We talk about some of these players and then talk about what we will see them as for next year's drafts. So that is what we're looking at here. Appreciate everybody's time. Happy New Year again. Still the 4th. We still can say that. And we will talk to everybody soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day.